I kind of tend to aim for like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah,
I think
that's good.
I think that's about right, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think any more than that, people just get bored.
Like Joe Rogan does like 3 hours. I'm like, I can never listen to it in one go.
I've watched a couple because I really enjoy watching Jordan B. Peterson. I think you have to be in the right frame of mind for it.
Yeah, I've never listened to any of that, but I know the name.
He's that psychologist,
Oh, okay.
and he's always talking about the difference between men and women, and they're like,
Okay.
It's quite interesting, a lot of the stuff. But anyway, I watched one because I don't not watch Joe Rogan, but I never think to put it on.
I'll go on every now and again and look at the guests, and it's always really obscure people that I don't really know who they are. So every now and again, he'll have like Russell Brand or someone I know, and I know is quite interesting to listen to.
Yeah,
talk.
I listened to it and I was like, oh, this is still going on.
Yeah,
I've,
stamina to be able to do it for that long.
And there doesn't seem to be any like breaks or anything.
No, it's literally
just the whole way through.
People will go to the toilet during. Like the guest will say, "I'm just going to go to the toilet," and he's got someone with him, and they'll just be chatting while they.
Oh, that's quite cool. One day we might get there. We'll start with, start crawling before I can run. But yeah, thank you for coming and doing this, and thank you for this morning as well, because I know it's a little bit of a.
It's good fun.
It's a bit of a curveball.
I should have put sun cream on, but I didn't.
I know. Well, I didn't expect it to be that hot. And yeah, you were doing a lot of the stair walking. But yeah, I've been asked for like glossy videos, like more, because the live stuff is like, I really enjoy doing the live stuff because it is live. I don't know, bringing both elements to it.
It's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah,
like something a bit different, like something a bit more polished and refined and.
Yeah. So tell me about your background, sort of musically, and what made you first want to start playing music?
I mean, there was always like music in my house growing up. I'm from an Irish family, so family gatherings and on weekends there was always the stereo system would come out and there'd always be music blaring, even if it was like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And my parents were making breakfast. They'd have the Irish tunes on. I think just from an early age, really, it just gave me a bit of an appreciation for music, and then as I got a bit older, a bit more of an understanding for music. And a lot of traditional Irish folk tunes are very catchy, and they're very
they really
short,
are.
And I think it gave me a bit of an ear for melody, and just what makes a catchy song. And then I got to like my mid-teens, and as everyone does, you start to develop your own taste in music and branch out that way. And a lot of the songs I was enjoying had elements of guitar in them, and I kind of thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if I could actually play some of these tunes? So I got a few lessons. I must have had maybe 10 or 11 lessons.
Okay.
Like a bloke would come round to my house and do all the scales and chord changes and things, but he would obviously give me homework as well to do between lessons. So I'd have this booklet of, one of them was called Guitar Gym. Okay. And it would be like doing scales.
I think I remember the Guitar
to
Gym.
Strengthen your finger muscles, because it's it's completely, if you've not done it before, it's really,
it's hard.
It takes a bit of getting used to. Yeah, and even just developing calluses on your fingers and things, so you can actually play for longer than 2 minutes without getting sore. So I did that, and then just got to a level where, I mean, the internet is such a good resource.
Yeah.
So I knew most of the cowboy chords.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went from there. I didn't really
cowboy chords.
Yeah, I've heard them called open chords.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
but I've never heard them referred to like that. But
I think because a lot of country music is just it is G D E minor C that kind of thing.
Everything's wagon wheel.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We had that song in the house quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it kind of went from there, and then I was just a bedroom guitar player for ages. And then when COVID came around, like everyone had so much time to think and not do much else. I kind of just thought, what do I actually really enjoy about life and what I do for fun? and the big thing was music.
Yeah.
So I just said to myself, when things start opening up again.
So it's only
afterwards,
really since COVID you've started sort of gigging.
I would do really occasional gigs.
Right.
So I'm from South London originally, and one of my dad's favourite drinking spots did an annual charity gig.
Okay.
So I would always play at that.
Yeah.
And it would just be like a 15-minute spot, do like 5 or 6 songs. And I always really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was probably slightly fear, slightly just getting out of your comfort zone, and it does take, I think, a conscious effort.
Yeah.
It's really easy to sort of toe the line and just play in your bedroom and not to anyone else. And
Yeah.
it took COVID to really give me the jolt I needed to get out there. And when things started opening up, I bought a little busking amp. I would just go out onto the high street. I'm living in Sittingbourne at the minute. Just go out to Sittingbourne High Street for an hour or two. The first time I did it, I was amazed at, one, how enjoyable it was,
Yeah.
and two, I said, if I can earn a tenner, I'll be happy. But I did a lot better than that, and I was really surprised, and it was quite addictive, and get a bit of a rush from doing it.
And is that with your own stuff, or was that with covers? Or
It was covers.
A bit of both.
It was covers. I mean, initially, to begin with, it was just covers. I do chuck in my own stuff every now and again if I'm busking it. It really depends on the gig, to be honest, because certain gigs, they're much more geared towards original material.
Yeah.
So I kind of tailor my set list now to the gig.
Okay.
Like if I'm doing a pub gig, I had one last week actually in Dartford, it's going to be 90% covers, I think.
Because it's what people want, isn't
Exactly, yeah.
You've got to get them on side before trying to slot in something that you want to give them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly that. I think there's a lot to be said for knowing who your audience are and giving them what they want.
Yeah.
And then, as you say, getting them on side and then saying, right, okay, we'll hit, that's what you want to hear. Here's something that you might also enjoy.
Yeah.
That I wrote myself. And they don't enjoy it. That's perfectly fine. Like, there's no right or wrong answers. Like, the audience know what they want, and if they enjoy it, that's great. But it's just about, I think, finding the right balance.
Yeah. And you said about the melody driven, like having an ear for melody. As we were saying earlier, I listen to quite a lot of your stuff anyway, because when I'm working with someone or taking photos or whatever it is, I tend to just listen to their stuff because it's nice to it's nice to show that you've done that. But actually, your stuff, I don't find it difficult to listen to at all. I was like, right, I would actually just listen to this. I'm not doing it for research purposes. I actually just like it. And I hadn't really thought about it until you said about the Irish family and the melody driven stuff. But your melodies are really strong. And I was dissecting it the other day, trying to think, can you, even when you came out with the new, when we were recording earlier on, the first words that you said, I can't even remember what it was now. Something about back on Tinder.
You can finally unfriend her, reinstall your Tinder. You could even grow a beard
and change your name.
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of got an Irish feel to it. That kind of. So does the second verse? Does it follow the same rhyming structure?
So it goes. Yeah, it goes. You can run to California, settle down in Georgia, or even get a house outside of Maine.
So outside of Maine, change your name. Change your name. Yeah. So it's a limerick, isn't it?
without
trying it. That's not like I really like it. I keep trying to write things in that way. Actually, I don't really put too much effort into it, but that kind of rhyming structure really, I don't know. I think it just works really well.
Yeah, I think it's almost, for me, it's almost like a comfort blanket, or almost like an insecurity in a way that I just want to get people on side as quickly as possible in the song. Sort of give them a catchy tune as quickly as possible. I think especially these days as well, because people's attention spans, myself included, I'm not, I'm no better than anyone else, but attention spans generally are just really short.
Yeah.
So I kind of put myself in the listener's shoes a little bit, where if I'm just, shuffling through Spotify or whatever, I want something to grab me straight away if I'm out and
Almost
about,
instantly.
or if I'm in the gym or something, listening to music. Yeah, you want something that's going to kind of grab you, and I try and do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, you've managed it. And I think you've managed it with the majority of the tracks, actually. There's, yeah. Is it Right Next to Me again?
right next to me,
You?
yeah, that was.
That's got a similar kind of.
But I think it's a learned process, I think, because that was the very first song that I put out of my own.
Okay.
But I mean, it was 5 minutes long, and there's a saying in songwriting that I didn't know at the time, and I'm sure you've heard of it. It's "Don't bore us, get to the chorus."
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
I've heard it bandied around a few times, and I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
But I was really kind of finding my feet as a songwriter. Like, I've written songs growing up, and I'd never really music generally. I'd never really put that much effort into it. I just
Yeah.
kind of mess around with putting tunes together, and that was one of the first songs that came together that I thought, okay, I could actually go into a studio and record this. But yeah, I just didn't know enough about keeping things succinct and tight as I do now, especially given that's quite a light acoustic poppy type song.
Yeah.
Doesn't really lend itself to being 5 minutes long, and I don't know. I think,
Yeah. I suppose.
but I mean, as we were saying earlier, I went back in the studio a few months ago and recut it with the producer I worked with at the time.
And now it's going mental again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gotten a lot more traction than
Yeah.
the original version, and I think it kind of vindicated my decision
Yeah.
to go and recut it,
Yeah,
because I knew the song itself was relatively strong. It just wasn't recorded in necessarily the right structure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
that's
shaved a
good.
good minute
It
and a
takes-
half off of it, and
It takes a humble kind of personality, I suppose. Like, you could have been quite egotistical about it and gone, no, that's the way I've written it, that's the way I'm going to have it. But it's quite nice that you've just gone, actually, no, let's go back and revisit it. Because I know a lot of people that would be like, well, that's it, that's done, I'm on to the next thing now. But it's probably stood you in good stead. What is your writing process? How do you start, or where do you find it? I was talking with somebody else the other day about where they find inspiration, and how for him it was mainly emotional. And yet I've met other people that are quite story driven, and they like the storyteller kind of thing. So they kind of put themselves into their character's shoes. Which, are you more emotional, or is it more a story?
I would. It's probably a bit of a spectrum. I would probably be more on the emotional side of things, but I do like the story element of songwriting, and it may not be something that I've necessarily employed that religiously yet, or so far. But I mean, to touch on the sort of Irish roots, a lot of those kind of songs are very story driven.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as my process, a lot of it will just be sitting down with an acoustic guitar and just noodling around, strumming some chords, and then kind of waiting for a moment of inspiration to strike. Sometimes it happens straight away, sometimes it just doesn't happen, and I'm just like, sod it, I'm going to put the guitar down for...
Yeah, and have a cup of tea or a beer.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then what I've been doing quite a lot recently, actually, is I'll just get my guitar out and I'll just get I'll wait for that moment where, a chord progression or a line or something will pop into my head, and then I'll just get my voice notes app out on my phone and just hit record and kind of play the same chord progression or the same line over and over, and then just kind of try and build a melody on top of that, or try and progress the song further. A lot of the time it just start out as gibberish, or it will start out as a line that I know that I'm going to change. Yeah. But it's more about...
But it's placeholder, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's got to be progress rather than perfection straight away. Like
yeah, and it's more about I'm really trying to think about the like the number of syllables and the phrasing and how the syllables interact with the melody, and I try and get that down. Yeah, and then I'll go back and I'll write down my lyrics of what I have so far, and then I'll try and... It's almost kind of like retrospective. I'll look at what I have, and then I'll almost try and look at it and say, okay, where is this song going? What kind of song is this going to be?
Okay.
Rather than, I don't sit down and say, right, I'm going to write a song about heartbreak or, love.
You look at it more analytically and
A little bit, but also it's kind of, I don't know if magical is the right word, but it just kind of comes out of my brain, and I try not to overthink it too much in the moment. I just let that moment of inspiration kind of happen, and then
it's interesting actually hearing, because I mean, you're the third person I've had in over the last couple of weeks, and everyone said something relatively similar. I know Michael Jackson said it years ago. He was like, I don't write the songs, God does, I'm just a vessel. And it was like he pops the ideas into my head, and then I'm able to do the things that he can't. And I mean, I'm not a particularly religious person. I find it fascinating, don't get me wrong. I find religion absolutely fascinating, especially the human elements of it, but that is like a whole different conversation. But we've had, I had a lad in yesterday who was saying that he doesn't particularly believe in God, but he does believe that the universe is putting these things in him and that he can bring them out. And it's that kind of divine inspiration. You don't really have I don't know, I've got a window, and it's basically about 10 minutes after I try and go to sleep. If I go to bed, I'm going to lay in bed for about 5-10 minutes, and then I'm going to be hit with a full band's worth of stuff going on in my head. And I'm like, I can either get up and risk waking the baby and have my other half going, what are you doing? Or I can go to sleep and hope that I remember it in the morning. And I'm yet to get up, but I'm hearing all these bangers in my head. But if you don't have that, it's difficult to... I don't remember a time when I didn't have that, really. You're probably similar. But it's difficult to try and explain that to somebody that hasn't had that feeling, because it is almost spiritual, isn't it? It's like a...
Yeah. You don't know where it comes from.
No.
Yeah, I think... you mentioned Michael Jackson. I listened to Paul McCartney say something similar.
Right.
Where I think he was speaking about how he wrote Yesterday, and it came to him in a dream.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, how does that happen? It's just you have to kind of believe that it's magic to an extent. I mean, it obviously it's in his brain somewhere, but it's not calculated. It's not. No. It might be methodical once he's got the bare bones and actually put together a song. But in terms of the original inspiration, it's pretty mystical. It's just fascinating. Yeah,
mystical's a good word.
Don't really know where it comes from. Yeah, you mentioned those 5-10 minutes when you put your head down at night. I've definitely had it before where something will come to me and I'll quickly get the voice notes out on my phone and hum a melody, just something. So you capture something, because I'm really bad at remembering.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah, remembering something.
There's a whole album's worth of stuff that has just been lost in my pillow.
Yeah, the lost masterpiece.
Oh, it wouldn't have been a masterpiece. It would probably it would have been like Bruno Mars's Lazy Song or something. It would have just been that going around and around. So who are your kind of who are your inspirations? Who's your kind of where? Because you've got a very distinctive kind of style. Although you listen to you're very radio ready. Like when you listen to your tracks, they're like, I can absolutely hear that on the radio, no problem. But there's still something distinct. Like your voice is quite distinctive. That kind of husk. Is that something you've always had, or is that like...
A lot of my favourite bands growing up, when I reached sort of teenage years, YouTube was quite a new thing.
Yeah.
Not to age myself too much, but a lot of my favourite bands were kind of these well-known... In America, they were quite well-known. Not very well established in the UK, kind of post-grunge maybe,
okay,
adult contemporary. There's all these different genre names for them, but I mean people like the Goo Goo Dolls, Lifehouse, I mean Train, a lot of these American bands that they often have one really well-known song.
Is it Goo Goo Dolls that did that? You and me and all
that's Lifehouse.
That's Lifehouse.
That's Lifehouse. Okay. Yeah.
Because that song, I can't remember what song it was that you were singing. I was like, I can hear them. I can hear it going into this.
Yeah, and I think
it's like that's.
I think that's symbolic of it being. I think it was right next to me. I think because I've had that comparison before.
It might have been right next to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think because that was one of the first songs I wrote consciously. I think it was always going to be really reflective of my main musical influences, I think. So
Yeah.
it's probably a lot of that song
Yeah.
in Right Next to Me.
It works though.
And then yeah, like I mean, like any guitar loving teenager in the late 2000s, early 2010s. I mean, people like Oasis were massive for me.
Yeah.
Stereophonics.
Yeah.
And then because I'm a singer songwriter, I'm a solo artist. People like David Gray,
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
John Mayer to a lesser extent. I mean, 'cause he's just an amazing guitarist and
Yeah.
so it's not directly comparable to what I do.
I
I
agree
couldn't
though.
really do what he does.
Yeah, when you say
But-
to a lesser extent, it's like I enjoyed it, but I was never like, this is incredible. I want to be like this in the same way as I was with, like Bob Dylan for a long time. Like I kind of go through, like my granddad's a massive Bob Dylan fan, and I would listen to all the writing and think, God, I would love to be able to write like this. I would love to be able to be like that.
Yeah.
John Mayer doesn't really. I appreciate he's very very good,
Yeah.
but I don't ever think, oh, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, but I think that's the beauty of music, isn't it? Because it's subjective,
Yes.
and ability isn't the be all and end all, because he's one of the best guitarists alive today. I think most would agree.
Yeah.
But if his music doesn't speak to you in a certain way,
Yeah.
then
that's
it's not
fine.
for you, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there will be other people that it does work for, but then there'll be other artists that you know, they might be less technically proficient, but as I say, that's not the most important thing when it comes to music. And I think that bodes well for me, because I'm not the best guitarist in the world, but I enjoy doing it.
But your writing is very strong. But with regards to the writing as well, like the production is all, because I know we've spoken before about like you enjoying the process of going to studios and doing the recording and all that. Do you produce at all yourself? Do you do any of the?
No, I mean, it's something that I'm definitely trying to learn more about. I think even just having an understanding of that side of things can be helpful when you go into a studio as an artist.
Yeah.
At least then you have an understanding as to what the producer is
going
doing.
on.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Rather than just being completely clueless, I think it's definitely worth investing the time and effort to develop an understanding as to that side of things,
Yeah.
because I think that can it can improve the communication between you and the producer.
Yeah.
Because you,
Yeah.
you speak that language.
Yeah.
I think it can also help you get the best performance out of yourself when you're in the studio,
Yep.
because you understand
Yeah.
what's happening and you understand why they need things done a certain way.
You do a bit of recording at home though, don't you?
I do, yeah. As I say, it's something that I'm trying to improve my understanding on. Yeah, I've just got a little home studio set up, and it's just for ideas and demos, and the odd bit on social media as well.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, it's just good practice to have that thing at home that I can fire up the laptop and get everything ready and do a bit of recording. And I sort of put together with the view of making myself as efficient as possible when I actually get into a studio. I've got an idea of what sort of arrangement I have in my head or on a demo. When it comes to making the final version of a song, and just trying to make the producers that I work with make their life as easy as possible. And
A lot
I think
of people don't do that. It does. Yeah.
But I think it's also selfishly, it's about me, ending up with the best finished product that I can come out of the studio and have the best possible version of that song. I think that's the ultimate goal.
You've worked with a lot of studios recently as well, haven't you? Where have you been? I know you were at Joplin House.
Yeah,
You did some stuff. Is it Magpie?
So we're at Joplin House. There is one near me in Newington, which is a village just outside Sittingbourne, a place called Squarehead Studios.
That name rings a bell.
It's been there a while, I think. It's a great space, and there's so much equipment there, and it's a really cool place. But that's why I like going to different studios, because each one's different in its own way, and each producer's got their own way of working.
Yeah.
And part of why I do this is to enjoy it as much as possible, and I enjoy working with different people and learning from them as well, because as I say, everyone's got their own process, and everyone does things in a slightly different way to someone else. And I think, again, that's the good thing about music and producing music. There's best practice, but there is no absolute right way of doing things.
Yeah. It's like there's a kind of skeleton recipe, and then you can smatter in whatever kind of seasoning you want. It's like it's. So do you, although other than the people that you've produced with, is there anyone else that you kind of bounce off for writing, or do you do the majority of it yourself?
No, I mean, if I have a song that is coming together, I might just take a rough voice recording on my phone, and I mean, a lot of my mates are very supportive, and I mean, to be honest, they'll probably tell me it's great even if it isn't.
That's quite nice though, because my mates were never. I was probably the only slightly creative one out of all of my mates. We were all just, I don't know, getting into fights and drinking too much at like 14 and falling in the harbour and all that sort of thing. So if I was like, I wrote an album when I was 14 and recorded it on this little micro BR, Boss little thing. I'd worked out how I could sing into it and all that, and I was really proud of it. I gave it to a mate, and he learnt one of the songs and changed all the lyrics just to take the piss. And like looking back now, I would have laughed, but at the time I laughed, but I was like, right, well, I'm not doing that again. So you've got quite supportive friends.
It's difficult though, because you put yourself out there, you don't know how people are going to react.
Yeah.
There's a vulnerability to it.
Yeah.
But
more
I think,
so on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of network of people I've got now. I mean, Steph, who I'd started this with, his writing is incredible, and it's really intricate. But he still rings me up and goes, "What about that? What does this work?" And I chuck everything his way, and he just gives me. And it's that just having a little shoulder to kind of lean on every now and again. But doing that on your own, that's quite frightening, isn't it?
A little bit. I think you have to develop an ear for what works and what doesn't, and you have to look at it quite objectively.
Yeah.
Which is difficult with music, because it isn't objective, it's subjective. But I think you have to look at what I'm trying to do, and I have to sort of say, okay, does this work in reference to what I'm trying to put together?
Yeah.
And a lot of it falls by the wayside. A lot of it doesn't work. I think I'm quite good at knowing when a song isn't going to work, and when it's or something needs changing, and and when something's working, and when an idea is coming together. I think I'm quite good at running with that, and the songs actually come together quite quickly when that happens.
Yeah, cool.
I'm quite fortunate, really, that I'm able to work like that.
When you're writing and when you come to lyrics, personally, I struggle with knowing that that's the right lyric. Is that something you struggle? Because I know you said you almost have an ear for whether something's going to work or not. How does that reflect towards your lyrics? Because your lyrics are, it's a difficult balance, because as far as I can hear, your lyrics have got a very sort of modern feel of sounding effortless, yet everything is quite descriptively placed. Like even that one we did down the beach earlier on, within 3 lines, it was like, I know exactly where this song is, where it's going, what it's about. It was relatable enough in 3 lines. Is that a case of these are the words, I'm sticking with it? Or, I mean, you kind of semi-answered it earlier on, but is that, do you get indecisive with it?
I think you could easily drive yourself mad, like, over lyrics, and you think, right, is this the exact specific correct word that it should be? I'm quite good at just saying, right, that's good enough, and just leaving it. You mentioned relatability. I really try and make my songs, I want them to be specific enough that people can relate to them, in terms of they understand where the song's going and what it's trying to say, but I try not to make them too specific. I think there's a balance to be struck.
Right.
It's tricky. Yeah, as you say, it's lyrics can be really tricky sometimes, and they can drive you mad. I think I'm quite good at Okay, that's
That's
good.
done.
Yeah, let's leave that. And if it when I'm finishing a song, I'll just every now and again over the coming days, I'll just pick up my guitar and play it through. And if something sticks out, it's like, okay, that's not quite working. I'll just earmark
Yeah.
that, and I'll play the song, and I'll try out a few different phrases or
Yeah.
a few different words. I've got a rhyming dictionary indoors.
Oh, nice.
That
Yeah.
is I actually haven't used it all that much, but it's a nice resource to have on the shelf.
I've got one on the bookmark bar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, look, just a thesaurus, and it
Yeah.
gives you like if you give it a one syllable word, it gives one syllable ones that rhyme, two syllables,
Yeah.
three syllables, and then like close rhyming ones.
That's really handy.
And the like the ones that are half decent are in bold. I don't know. I even used. I probably shouldn't have. I used Chat GTP the other
Really?
week. To find one line. I was like, what is a line that will follow, and then put this in a wedding song? And it gave me an answer, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not bad. And then I clicked redo it, and it said, is this good or bad? And I was like, well, okay. Or no, it didn't. The next one came up, it said, is this one better or worse? So I was like, better. And then just kept refreshing it, and it kept giving me more and more and more. And then I saw one, and it gave me the right feel. So I went, okay, cool. I can work with that.
That's the thing. Even if it doesn't give you exactly what you're after, if it gives you a starting point,
Yeah.
and then you can
Yeah.
go from there
It's it's kind of scary.
a little bit.
But because I did actually just go write me a wedding song, and it took less than 5 seconds. It come out verse, chorus,
How was
verse, chorus. Very impersonal.
Yeah.
But I mean, and there's no music to it, so I don't know. But you could feel a rhythm. It seems to favour like 1-2-1-2 rhyming structures. But I mean, it was all right. It was okay. You could probably put a piano to it, and it'd be all right. Yeah, I don't know. So have you been working on anything new? So the one we did down the beach earlier on, that's a new one, isn't it?
Yeah, so I was in the studio in Newington a couple of months back. So that song is 90% done. I've got a session at the end of this month just to flesh it out a little bit more, because I've got the song in its current form, and it's fine, but I'm really keen on just keeping the listener's ear.
Yeah.
And making the song, even though it is quite a simplistic acoustic folk song, essentially, just making it a bit more dynamic and with the instrumentation and the feel of the song, and just trying to retain the listener's ear. So we're going to do a little bit more work on that. So that's probably going to come out towards the end of the year.
Okay.
Cool. And
is there anything else to follow that, or?
So I'm going to have a song coming out probably in the next month or so. It's much more like up tempo pop rock, essentially. Because what I'm doing is I'm kind of playing with a few different musical styles, and I just love playing different types of music that I enjoy listening to, and I enjoy writing in certain styles. So this one, as I say, is more sort of up tempo. I'd say it's like pop, punk rock a little bit, sort of kind of like Blink-182, a little bit that kind of feel.
Yeah, nice.
So I've been working with a producer called Adam Hall Osman, he's a talented producer, also a talented musician as well, not unlike someone I know. But it's cool. He's got a studio. He's basically converted his garage into a recording studio, but
nice.
It's brilliant in there. It's a lovely space to work in. So we've been working on that together. So I'm hoping that's going to come out in the next month or or two. But I like to give each release a bit of time to breathe.
Yeah.
Give things 8-12 weeks, possibly longer. And then just space things out a little bit. But in the meantime, I've been doing some writing as well, and I finished a song up 2 days ago. That
Nice.
I quite enjoy. I'm going to play it today.
So, brilliant.
Just trying to stay busy, trying to keep writing, because it's quite habitual that if I don't make a conscious effort to keep writing. I think it's something that I could easily fall out of the habit of doing, and I'm trying to with each song I write, I'm just trying to get a little bit better each time, and I'm not expecting fireworks each time I.
No, but that's the best way though, isn't it? It's baby steps, isn't it? And like, you've got to start, and I mean, if you're a little bit better every day, that's kind of all you can hope for, really.
Yeah, I think if you can improve slightly every time, not necessarily across the board in terms of the entire song is massively better than the one you did before, but if, I don't know, you get slightly better at song structuring or phrasing than you were a month ago, if you look back over the course of 1-2 years, you can see a marked improvement. I think small changes along the way can make a big difference. Absolutely. Further down the line. So I'm just trying to just keep on, really, and who knows.
That kind of leads on quite nicely to my final question for everyone so far. I'm going to make it a staple. If you could see yourself musically in sort of 5-10 years time, where would you like to be?
The big thing that I'm trying to do with my music is just put together a catalogue that I can be proud of, and I can look back and say, these songs, they stand the test of time. Like, they were good songs then, they're still good songs. I think that's true for all good music. It doesn't really matter what era it's recorded in. A good song's a good song. So that's the big thing for me. I just want to improve as a songwriter, and play interesting gigs. I love getting out there and playing music, and I've got some cool gigs coming up in London, and if I can do more of that going forward.
Do you play with bands at all, or is it mainly solo?
It's just solo stuff. I would never rule out playing in a band.
As soon as you've I mean, you're fast approaching it anyway. But if you've got enough to do if you've got enough to do like a full set of your own stuff, you should get a band in and just have them learn all of your stuff and have as a bit, even if it's just a one-off. I mean, I wouldn't mind coming and doing it for you. It's a bit of a vanity project. I'm kind of working on something similar at the moment that I haven't announced yet, but it will be kind of this time next year, maybe next September sort of time. But it's probably going to be something similar to that. I haven't written anything yet, so I'm going to need to pull my finger out a bit. But I don't know. I think there's something. I've always been on the other end of it, not being the artist, basically, just being sort of the hired gun, come in to play bass or guitar or whichever. But it's always good fun playing other people's tracks. I don't know. I think your songs would really benefit from having like a live performance with a full band, even if you're just getting a bass and a drummer in. Really, it might. I definitely think there is something to be said for having that full band feel. That's why I try and emulate that in my recordings, and have a full arrangement in them, because it does bring the songs to life in a really great way. It makes them more dynamic and more listenable than just how the songs are written on an acoustic guitar. It's definitely food for thought. I think it's also quite nice the way around you do it, that because you see you playing like when I came up to Joplin House to do photos for you, and we had I can't remember what it was called. What was the song called you did up there? In Between, yeah. And hearing you play that and sing it, and actually I was only there to hear, and I could hear it playing back the acoustic guitar and the vocals, and thinking, this is really good. But then when it came out and it's got all this instrumentation behind it, I was like, fuck, this is even better. Like it was a good song in its core. The embellishment makes
because on the day because you were there for the first day, it was a 2-day project. The first day I went away after that session, and it was just the acoustic guitar, the vocal. There was maybe a shaker or something in there, and it was fine. But again, it was like, I want to make this want to build it up a little bit more, make it a little
Yeah.
bit more interesting, especially leading to the chorus, and
Mm-hmm.
just make it a bit bigger, give it a fuller sound. So I worked with Dan Lucas, the engineer, and yeah, he was great. He developed the bass line and
Yeah.
and some of the backing guitars, and I put in quite a few of my own ideas in terms of little guitar fills and stuff between verses. And yeah, we come away after the second day, and the song was finished. I was like, yeah, I'm actually really proud of that.
Yeah, and it is. It's a really. I mean, Dan's really good anyway. He's got some really good gear, and he really knows how to use it.
That's the thing. I think a lot of his philosophy is that the gear is one thing, that's great, but you need a space where you can be creative and you can give your best performance. And I mean, from my perspective, I was really comfortable in there, and I found it really easy to give my best performance because I knew that he's gonna make the best of it.
Yeah.
So you kind of know you're in safe hands.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot easier that way, I think.
Yeah, I agree. No, it's good. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, as always. Yeah, let's play some tracks, shall we?
Let's do it.